Oh no, wait here. I need to tell you something very important before we go any further. Do you promise not to tell anyone else? Good. Now I can tell you all about the most haunted hotel room in the world. In today's video, we're going to talk about one particular room in the Banff Springs Hotel in Canada. The name of this room is 873. And what makes it so scary is that it drove every single person insane that stayed in it. In fact, it was so bad that the owners of the hotel had to seal off the door permanently. But why? What made the guests of the Banff Springs Hotel slowly go insane? Well, it all started with one family. It was a husband, wife, and their 2 children. They were staying at the Banff Springs Hotel for an entire month. However, after just 4 days, they were found dead in their room. It didn't take long to find out what happened. After looking into the matter, authorities concluded that the father killed the mother and children and then took his own life. This means that the whole family died in room 873. And ever since that day, strange things have been happening in there. For example, the apparition of a little girl has been spotted several times. One time a worker went into the room to clean it and he heard a small voice behind him say, "Leave me alone." He turned around but saw nothing. Some people even claim that if you stay in room 873, you will die within a year. But is this really true? Today, we're going to get to the bottom of this mystery. We're gonna do everything we can to figure out what happened in room 873. So make sure to watch the entire video if you don't want to end up dead. First, let's take a look at the layout of the hotel. This way we know exactly where room 873 is located. As you can see, room 873 is located directly above the ballroom on the 8th floor. For those who are wondering, the building goes from 1 to 9 floors. The 9th floor is the top floor and it doesn't have any rooms. One time, someone who worked at the hotel was cleaning room 873 when he heard screams coming from the next room, 874. He opened the door to check what was going on, but no one was there. And to this day, no one knows what those screams were. Now we're gonna listen to some recordings from actual guests who stayed at the Banff Springs Hotel. They may not tell us what happened in room 873, but it's still pretty interesting stuff. One guest said, "We noticed right away that it was a cold room, and I mean freezing. We put the heater on full blast, but it did not help at all. There was also a terrible draft coming from somewhere, which was making our bedsheets and curtains move constantly." Another guest said, "We decided to stay in our room and watch TV instead of going out. We did not realize until later that all of the guests in the hotel were actually out celebrating. When we looked out of our window, we saw nothing but darkness. It was like we were in a prison cell." And finally, the last guest said, "I woke up in the middle of the night to what sounded like footsteps above me. My friend and I looked at each other in bed and started laughing because it was obviously impossible that anyone could be walking above us since we were on the top floor. In the morning after, of course, not being able to sleep at all, we told the hotel staff about what happened. They looked at us as if we were crazy and said that no one was above us. In fact, there's no floor above us at all." Now that we heard these stories, it's safe to say that room 873 is cursed. But how did this happen? Why is room 873 so haunted? Well, it all has to do with the family that died in there. When the police came into the room to investigate, they found that the father shot both the mother and children. Then he tried to make it look like it was a robbery gone wrong. But after talking to the family's friends and relatives, they found out that the father was heavily in debt. He did this to get life insurance for the children and then collect on it after killing them. However, it seems like the souls of the family are still trapped inside the hotel. Maybe they're haunting room 873 or maybe they're just stuck inside it. But whatever the case may be, the story only gets scarier from here. A lot of people say that if you stay in room 873, you will not make it out alive. And there are many stories that support this claim. Let me tell you one of them. Back in 1926, A man named Sam was driving his horse through the mountains near Banff. He got lost and eventually ended up at the hotel. A kind employee welcomed him and his horse and gave them food and water. After this, Sam decided to stay the night in the hotel. He asked for the best room, and the employee showed him room 873. From the moment Sam stepped into the room, he felt an unexplainable chill down his spine. But he ignored it and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, he was awoken by the sound of footsteps in the hallway. He assumed it was just a guest going to the bathroom, so he went back to sleep. But the footsteps got louder and louder. Sam got out of bed to investigate, but when he opened the door, he saw nothing but a dark hallway. This happened again, and Sam began to panic. He ran out of the room and into the hallway to try and find someone, but no one was there. He spent the rest of the night wandering the halls until sunrise, at which point he checked out of the hotel and left. Shortly after, he was found dead in his car from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Some say he couldn't handle being in the same room as the ghosts of the family and decided to end his life. Others say that the ghosts of the family were haunting him, trying to get revenge. As you can imagine, when this story got out, the hotel tried to cover it up. But there are many similar stories like this one. People say that if you stay in room 873, you will never be seen again. However, a few years ago, someone decided to investigate this claim for themselves. I'm gonna tell you all about it right now. In 2016, a paranormal investigator named Ivan decided to spend the night in room 873. Before doing this, he spoke to the manager of the hotel and asked if they had ever had any reports of paranormal activity in the room. The manager replied that they had too many to count. After hearing this, Ivan was even more excited to investigate. However, he did not expect what happened next. The moment he entered the room, he felt a strong presence with him at all times. No matter where he went in the room, he always felt watched. Ivan set up cameras all over the room to collect any evidence he could. But unfortunately, none of the cameras worked. They were completely fried, as if someone had purposely sabotaged them. But Ivan wasn't done yet. He brought in some audio equipment to listen for any voices or sounds. And this is what he heard. Throughout the entire night, he kept hearing whispers, footsteps, and chains dragging metal moans. At first, he thought that maybe it was just the old pipes of the building. But then he realized that the audio equipment was plugged into the wall. There was no way it could have picked up sounds from outside the room. On top of this, Ivan says that he was physically touched throughout the night. At first, he thought that maybe it was just his imagination. But then he noticed that his hair was perfectly messed up in the morning, as if someone had run their hands through it. In the end, Ivan decided that he had enough evidence to prove that room 873 is haunted. He posted his findings online and soon went viral. Everyone wanted to hear more about his investigation and see the footage that he collected. But there was one problem. He didn't have any footage. Every camera that he set up was broken. And although he recorded audio, it was too distorted to make out anything. However, Ivan's story didn't stop there. He continued to investigate paranormal activity for years after this. He even wrote a book about it. But why did he keep doing it? Why is it so important for him to prove that room 873 is haunted? Well, it's because he experienced it firsthand. He knows that there are ghosts in that room, and he wants everyone else to believe him. However, the truth is that we will never know what really happened in room 873. All we have are stories and theories. One thing is for sure, though, you should never stay in room 873. If you do, you might just become another story. But now it's time for you to make your voice heard. How do you think this mystery should be solved? Is there a detail that I missed? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're there, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching.